You already know why you're here. Not because something went wrong tonight. Because something has been wrong for a long time. And you are tired in the way that doesn't show on your face. The kind of tired that lives underneath everything you manage to get done. You are standing at the edge of a garden. It is night. The air is still. Not cold. Not warm. Just present. There is a stone path in front of you, worn smooth by years of the same footsteps going back and forth. Back and forth. Not because anyone asked them to, just because that is what those feet did. A wooden gate stands open beside you. It was never locked. To your left, a lantern hangs from an iron hook. Its glass is fogged from the inside. It has been burning for a long time. Welcome. This is Sharon. From Sharon Sleep Stories. You don't need to do anything right now. You don't need to follow every word. You don't need to stay awake for any of this. Just be here. If tonight is the first time you found this place, you're in the right place. If you've been here before, you already know what this is. Either way, you're here now. That's enough. If Sharon Sleep Stories has ever helped you rest, consider subscribing. New sleep stories arrive every week for the ones who need them. Now, step through the gate. The path is narrow but clear. Your feet already know how to walk it. The garden stretches out on both sides. You can't see where it ends. That's fine. You don't need to see the edges tonight. Just the path. Just the next step. Just this. The music underneath you is barely there. Good. It's not supposed to be noticed. Neither is most of what you do. Welcome. This is Sharon. From Sharon Sleep Stories. You don't need to do anything right now. You don't need to follow every word. You don't need to stay awake for any of this. Just be here. If tonight is the first time you found this place, you're in the right place. If you've been here before, you already know what this is. Either way, you're here now. That's enough. If Sharon Sleep Stories has ever helped you rest, consider subscribing. New sleep stories arrive every week for the ones who need them now. Step through the gate. The path is narrow but clear. Your feet already know how to walk it. The garden stretches out on both sides. You can't see where it ends. That's fine. You don't need to see the edges tonight. Just the path. Just the next step. Just this. The music underneath you is barely there. Good. It's not supposed to be noticed. Neither is most of what you do. Welcome. This is Sharon from Sharon Sleep Stories. You don't need to do anything right now. Sharon walks beside you. Not ahead, not behind, beside. He doesn't explain the garden. He just points. There. That row of plants on the left. They should have died in winter. The frost came early that year. It came hard. Everything around them went under. It came hard. Everything around them went under. But these didn't, because someone came out in the cold and covered them. Not once. Every night the temperature dropped. Every night, without being asked, without being thanked, without anyone knowing they were doing it at all. The plants don't know either. They just grew further along the path. The fence on the right side leans slightly, but it doesn't fall. 3 years ago, there was a post rotting at the base. A small thing. The kind of thing most people walk past. They found the wood. They found the tools. They fixed it on a Tuesday afternoon when they were already behind on everything else. Nobody noticed the fence was fixed. But the fence is standing. The gardener exhales. The night exhales with them. You know this gardener. You might be starting to recognize them. The soil here is turned by hand, not machine. You can tell by the texture. Uneven in the way that careful things are uneven. Someone's hands went into this ground, moved it, prepared it, made it ready for something that wouldn't grow for months. And when it grew, and it did grow, nobody connected it back to those hands. They just enjoyed what grew. That's how it works, usually. People enjoy the garden. They don't think about the garden. The path curves gently to the left. Follow it. There's a small water basin here. Stone. Old. The edge is worn where hands have gripped it thousands of times. The water is clear tonight. Someone made sure of that. Not today. Yesterday. The day before. The week before. Quietly. Without announcement. The way maintenance works. Invisible until it stops. The gardener's hands are not soft. That is not a complaint. That is just what happens to hands that do real things for a long time. You keep walking. The garden is larger than it looked from the gate. It always is. Here, a tree that was planted small. Someone staked it in its first year so the wind wouldn't take it. Checked the stake through 2 full seasons. Adjusted it once when it started cutting into the bark. The tree is tall now. It gives shade in summer to people who never think about why it's there. The gardener doesn't mind. Or maybe they do, a little. But they keep going anyway. That is the thing about people who tend things. They don't stop because the thanks don't come. They stop only when they have nothing left. And some of them, many of them, give until that moment arrives and keep going even past it, running on something that isn't energy anymore, running on habit, on love, on the quiet belief that if they stop, something important will fall. Nothing in this garden has fallen. Think about that. They stayed steady. They said the right things. They moved through it. And later, alone, they sat with what it cost them. Nobody asked what it cost them. There was the meal that got made, even when they were the one who was hungry. Not just physically. Hungry for someone to notice. Hungry for one moment where they were the one being taken care of. They made the meal anyway. They sat at the table. They watched everyone eat. There was the silence they kept to protect someone who never protected them. They had every right to speak. They chose not to because they understood something about that person or about the situation that made the silence feel like the right thing. Nobody gave them credit for that silence. Silence never gets credit. There was the time they kept going when nobody would have blamed them for stopping. Everyone would have understood if they stopped. They didn't stop. They don't fully know why. Some part of them just kept moving. One more step. One more day. One more thing handled. Until here. Until tonight. There was the moment they almost didn't make it. Not a dramatic moment. Not a moment anyone would write a story about. Just a quiet moment. Alone, probably. Where something inside went very still and very small. And the weight of everything became briefly, completely unbearable. And then it passed, and they got up, and they kept going. And nobody knew. Nobody knew how close it was. Nobody knew what it took. Nobody clapped when you kept going. Nobody noticed when you held it together. Nobody saw you it. There was the moment they almost didn't make it. Not a dramatic moment. Not a moment anyone would write a story about. Just a quiet moment. Alone, probably. Where something inside went very still and very small, and the weight of everything became briefly, completely unbearable. And then it passed, and they got up. And they kept going. And nobody knew. Nobody knew how close it was. Nobody knew what it took. Nobody clapped when you kept going. Nobody noticed when you held it together. Nobody saw the moment you almost didn't. But the garden grew. And gardens do not lie about who tends them. And they got up. And they kept going. And nobody knew. Nobody knew how close it was. Nobody knew what it took. Nobody clapped when you kept going. Nobody noticed when you held it together. Nobody saw the moment you almost didn't. But the garden grew. And gardens do not lie about who tends them. There is a bench at the center of the garden. Not decorative, functional. Old wood, darkened by seasons. A little uneven. On the left side, where the ground settled. Years ago, the gardener sits. Not because they collapsed. Not because they gave up. Because they chose to. This is the first time in the story they have stopped moving. Notice what happens to the garden. Nothing. The plants don't wilt. The fence doesn't fall. The tree doesn't lean. The water doesn't cloud. The garden holds. It holds because of everything that was already done. Rest doesn't undo work. It proves the work was real. The night is very quiet here at the center. The lantern light from the gate reaches this far. Just barely. Just enough to know it's there. The gardener's hands rest on their knees, open, not gripping anything. Wherever your hands are right now, let them open slightly. Not a command, just a description of what happens when the body finally believes it's allowed to stop. The people you carry tonight, they will still be there tomorrow. The things you're responsible for, they will still be there tomorrow. The garden will be standing when you wake up. You don't need to tend it tonight. Tonight, the garden tends you.
The music underneath has been there this whole time. You may have forgotten it was playing. Good. That means something else had your attention. The gardener exhales slowly, not dramatically, just fully. The kind of exhale that takes something with it on the way out. Not everything, just something. That's enough for tonight. The shoulders drop slightly. The jaw loosens. The hands stay open. The bench holds. You are allowed to exist tonight without being useful. Not as a reward, not because you earned it, just because that's true. It was always true. The garden is fully dark now. The lantern at the gate is still burning, but it's far enough away that its light is just a suggestion. Just enough to know you're not alone. Sharon speaks quieter now. Not softer. Just quieter. There's a difference. Here is what the garden says. About you. Not as metaphor,
directly. You are the reason. Are still standing, not the only reason. You are the reason things are still standing. Not the only reason, but a reason that cannot be removed without something falling. Unseen does not mean unreal. The roots of this garden go deep because of hands that went deep. Your hands. Whether anyone named them or not, the work was never nothing. It was never nothing just because nobody said so. Things grew. Things held. Things survived winters. They weren't supposed to survive because of you.
That's all Sharon needs to say about that. The night is wide now. The bench is solid beneath you. The garden is still. Breathing comes on its own. In. Out. The music underneath is almost gone now. Almost. Just enough to fill the silence without interrupting it. The body is heavy in the way that means it's done. Not broken. Done. There's a difference there, too. If this story found you tonight, if it reached the part of you that needed to be named, Sharon's Sleep Stories will be here next week. New stories, same quiet. Subscribe if you want to come back. The gardener doesn't move now. The garden doesn't ask them to. The path is still there. The gate is still open. The lantern is still burning. But you don't need any of that tonight. Tonight, You just need this. The dark, the still, the quiet that has no bottom. You tended enough today. Rest now.